One of the great pleasures of living in the Southwest is being able to go camping out in the desert. There's just something really relaxing about being out in the brush, surrounded by all the different shades of brown and yellow and green, the heat of the sun beating down on you, then the relief that comes with the coolness of night. Last Friday I decided I needed a break, so I packed up the truck and made my way out into the desert. The plan was to spend a couple of days out there alone, being one with nature and just letting go the stress of everyday life. I found a nice camping spot that afternoon, set up my tent, then sat in my chair and read my book. The sun started to set at around 8 in the evening, so that's when I started thinking about dinner. I cooked a steak and a potato over my campfire, had a couple of beers, then went into my tent for a good night's sleep. I woke up early the next morning, started the fire, and immediately set the coffee to brew. I figured I'd have a cup before making breakfast, just to get my head right. So I sat in my chair and stared out into the desert. The morning air cooled my face while my back was warmed by the campfire, and my belly was warmed by the coffee. I was lost in my thoughts as I watched the green and blue bushes sway in the breeze, when I was startled by the sound of someone clearing his throat. I turned to see who it might be, but I didn't see anyone. And then I heard a voice behind me saying, "Good morning, friend." I turned, and looking down, I saw a snake staring right at me. I greeted him. "Oh, good morning, friend snake. How are you this fine day? My tent isn't disturbing you, is it?" "Oh, no, you're fine. I was just out for a morning stroll, thinking about breakfast, when I saw you and thought I'd stop by and see how you were." I replied, "Oh, how nice. Would you like a cup of coffee?" "Yes, please. That would be nice. Thank you." Something you learn when living in the desert is that it's a good idea to be able to identify different types of snakes. Here in the Southwest, we have several hundred types. My morning visitor had a rattle, but that by itself didn't help too much with the identification, because this area is home to several different types of rattlesnake. The diamond print on his rose-colored skin helped narrow it down, but it was the shape of his eyebrows that really brought it down to two possibilities. He was either a southern basin diamander or a salty desert bushcrawler. Our conversation led me to the conclusion that he was a bushcrawler. Diamanders have notoriously bad manners and never say please nor thank you. I poured and handed him a coffee, then topped myself off, and we sat and visited for a bit. It was mostly small talk. We talked about the blooming desert flowers, about the drought we were in the middle of, and of how the summers seemed to get hotter with each passing year. It was pleasant, but I knew it wouldn't last. After I finished my coffee, I stood and announced that I was going to fix some eggs for breakfast. I asked him if he was interested in a second cup, or perhaps a bite to eat. "Oh, I'll be having a bite." I sighed, then said, "I thought as much. Mind if I have some breakfast first? I'd hate to meet my end on an empty stomach." Being well-mannered, he agreed. I knew he would. I filled his cup and placed it by my cutting board, and invited him to continue our visit while I cooked. He came close enough to keep an eye on me, but not so close that I could surprise him with my knife. I had a plan brewing, but I needed to buy time. I asked him detailed questions about his life as a snake as I started gathering my ingredients. We gabbed as I chopped some vegetables. I cut some tomatoes, then some chilies, and then some potatoes. And then I moved on to the onions. Now, it's common knowledge that snakes have ducts in their fangs connected to their venom glands. That's how it normally works. They secrete venom when they bite you, delivering the double whammy. But something that not everyone knows about bushcrawlers is that their venom gland is also connected to their tear ducts. So, when bushcrawlers cry, they secrete their venom as tears. So, as I started chopping my onion, I asked him about the relations between the various types of snakes. You know, the politics of snakedom. This kept him talking as I worked. I then asked him about his family and other close relations, which kept him talking as I chopped up a second onion. Then I asked him about romance and lost love, which kept him talking as I cut a third onion. It was at this point that he figured out what I was doing. Talking of lost love made him wistful, which brought direct attention to the tears in his eyes. But then he put together that he had been crying for quite some time, and that his tears had nothing to do with regret over love long gone. The snake struck out at me, sinking his fangs into my left forearm. It certainly hurt, but neither of us knew if it would go beyond that. We stood there, not moving, staring at each other, waiting to see if my gamble paid off. After a couple of minutes, it was clear. He had cried out all of his venom. So, there we were, his fangs deep in my left forearm, his body stretched across my cutting board, and me holding a knife in my right hand. My initial plan was to have some ham with my eggs and potatoes. It turns out that snake is a pretty good substitute for ham. It was a nice breakfast.